titled The Irrational Exuberance on North Korea. Kim is already winning. The historic handshake between the leaders of North and South Korea has, for now, reduced the threat of war on the Korean Peninsula. Jong Un even stepped across the line between the Koreas, becoming the first North Korean dictator to set foot in the South, even if only for a moment. While these are welcome developments, they don't justify the amount of, shall we say, irrational exuberance they're producing. President Trump's supporters, among whom we must now improbably count Senator Lindsey Graham, R-S.C, are already talking about a Nobel Peace Prize. The South Korean president and his foreign minister are dutifully rendering credit to Trump as well, although this might be as much about placating an ally, Washington, who was left out of a crucial strategic move as much as it is about diplomatic politeness. It is difficult to know why Kim is, literally, putting his best foot forward. Some of Trump's critics have suggested that the North Koreans have suffered a major accident at their testing site, and that this is why Kim is willing to negotiate. Arms control experts have dismissed this idea. They note that Kim still has workable facilities and, more important, he already has all the testing and data he needs to maintain a nuclear stockpile. A more judicious inventory of the situation suggests caution for multiple reasons. President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for North Korea diplomacy. North Korea is a trap for Trump. Disaster is far more likely than a Nobel. First, there can be no denying that North Korea has already achieved major diplomatic and strategic victories over the past year, while giving up exactly nothing. Pyongyang has tested nuclear weapons and long-range missiles at will. Months of heated threats from Washington were answered with equally muscular rhetoric. Kim stood fast. Today, the threats are over, but the arsenal remains. In the wake of Trump's empty fulminations, Kim seized the opportunity to look reasonable by comparison. Consequently, a leader who just a few years ago was an international pariah, a man, we might recall, who murdered his own half-brother in a chemical attack in an international airport, is being lauded as a diplomat. Kim is no longer just his father's weird mini-me ruling over a prison camp. He is now, astonishingly, the peer of the President of the United States, described by Donald Trump himself as very open and honorable. Second, the Americans are doing all of this backward, deciding first to have a summit, and then trying to figure out why. Holding a summit without a firm agenda is always courting disaster. The North Koreans have nothing to lose here. A summit will buy them time for their nuclear program and make it harder for the West to stay united on sanctions. In the meantime, Kim is making offers that he will likely never honor, almost certainly in order to elicit reckless promises from a president who values deals more than anything. President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for North Korea diplomacy policing the USA, a look at race, justice, media. Third, these negotiations seem to have some serious opponents in the administration, starting with National Security Advisor John Bolton. Bolton has casually suggested that the deal to denuclearize Libya could serve as a template for a Korea deal. Bolton, of course, knows, and Trump likely does not, that the North Koreans pointed to Muammar Gaddafi's abdication of his nuclear program as the reason the West toppled him. When Bolton equated a Korean deal with Libya, he might as well have warned Kim directly that regime change is in the cards no matter what happens. Trump himself has now added weight to that argument by saying that a U.S. abandonment of the nuclear deal with Iran would be a good lesson for North Korea. This is a bizarre claim. And it is astonishing to see people who excoriated former President Barack Obama, like, say, Graham, for his credulousness just a few years ago and dealing with Iran now arguing that Trump's approach will somehow produce a better result with a nation far less subject to international pressure than Iran was. It is possible, and we must hope, that North Korea's leader has decided his state is unsustainable. More likely is that he has proved he could weather the threats of America's mercurial president and still emerge as the leader of a nuclear-armed state who will now sit at the table as a peer rather than a supplicant. At this point, the United States is committed to these talks, and so we must wish the president luck. But just as in the Iran deal, We should have no illusions about the price we have already paid to get this far, and prepare for the dangers that lie ahead if we find, as still seems likely, that we are being duped. Tom Nichols is a professor of national security affairs at the Naval War College, a member of USA Today's Board of Contributors and author of The Death of Expertise. The views expressed here are solely his own. Follow him on Twitter, @RadioFreeTom.